The Karelian slave trader's tentacles trembled as he clutched the crystalline bottle of Terran whiskey. His compound eyes, dilated and unfocused, barely registered the two small figures huddled in the corner of his filthy cargo hold. "Take them," he slurred in broken galactic common, his translator chip struggling with his intoxication. "Take the worthless things. Just give me the bottle." David Chun watched the pathetic creature with a mixture of disgust and pity. The trading post on Epsilon 7 was known for attracting the galaxy's dregs, but this was lower than he'd expected. He'd only offered the whiskey as a joke, testing how desperate the alien truly was. "You're selling sentient beings for alcohol?" David asked, his voice cold. The Karelian's laugh was a wet, gurgling sound. "Sentient? These Nitharians? They're broken goods. Defective. The collective rejected them. No neural network, no hive mind connection. They're individuals." He spat the last word like a curse. David's eyes shifted to the corner. Two Nitharians, species he'd only read about in xenobiology reports, sat chained to the bulkhead. Their silver skin was mottled with bruises, and their large, luminescent eyes tracked his every movement with a mixture of fear and something else. Intelligence. Raw, unmistakable intelligence. The female was smaller, her frame delicate despite the harsh treatment. The male beside her kept positioning himself between her and potential threats, a protective instinct that transcended species. "Deal?" David said, tossing the bottle. The Karelian caught it with surprising dexterity for someone so inebriated, already unscrewing the cap before David had even approached the captives. Kira heard the chains release before she felt them. The human, she'd learned to recognize the species from the cargo hold's information screens, knelt before her slowly, hands visible and empty. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, his translator rendering his words in perfect Nitharian. "My name is David. Can you understand me?" She nodded, her vocal cords still damaged from the shock collar the Karelian had used. Beside her, Zeph, her brother in all but blood, remained tense, ready to fight despite their weakened state. "Can you walk?" David asked. Kira tried to stand, but her legs buckled. Before she hit the ground, David caught her, his movements gentle despite his strength. She flinched instinctively, expecting pain. It never came. "Easy," he murmured. "I've got you." He carried her to his ship, Zeph following closely, suspicious and protective. The vessel was small but immaculately maintained, a far cry from the festering prison they'd endured for 3 cycles. The first week aboard the Wanderer's Hope was a study in contrasts. David provided them with separate quarters, medical attention, and food that didn't taste like recycled waste. He never demanded anything in return. Kira watched him constantly, trying to understand. In the Nitharian collective, every action had purpose, every resource was allocated with precision. Individual desires were subsumed into the greater whole. But she and Zeph had been born different, disconnected from the neural network that bound their species. The collective had deemed them aberrations and sold them to the highest bidder. Through the traders, they'd learned that slavery was common in the galaxy. The strong dominated the weak. Resources were hoarded. Compassion was a liability. Yet this human violated every pattern they'd observed. "Why did you help us?" Kira finally asked one evening. Her vocal cords healed enough for speech. She found David in the ship's small workshop, repairing a damaged navigation relay. That he looked up, grease smeared across his cheek, and smiled. "Why wouldn't I? We have nothing to offer you. We're not even connected to the collective. We're worthless." David's expression hardened. "You're not worthless. You're people. That's all that matters." "People are property throughout the galaxy," Zeph interjected from the doorway, his tone challenging. "Stronger species enslave weaker ones. It's the natural order." David set down his tools and stood. "Then the natural order is wrong. Where I come from, we learned that lesson the hard way. Humans spent millennia enslaving each other, conquering each other, treating each other as property. We justified it with 1,000 different excuses, differences in appearance, culture, strength, intelligence. All of it was bullshit." He moved to a small viewport, looking out at the stars. "We nearly destroyed ourselves before we figured out the truth. Every thinking being deserves dignity, freedom, and the chance to choose their own path. It doesn't matter if you're human, Nitharian, or something we haven't even met yet. Consciousness itself is precious." Kira felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. Hope, she realized. Actual hope. Over the following months, David became more than their rescuer. He became their teacher, their friend, and their advocate. He taught them to pilot the ship, to navigate the complex web of galactic trade routes, to defend themselves. More importantly, he taught them that their disconnection from the collective wasn't a defect, it was a gift. You can think for yourselves, he explained during one lesson. You can dream, create, choose. The collective has efficiency, but you have something more valuable: individuality. The ability to surprise yourself and others. That's where innovation comes from. That's where art comes from. That's where love comes from. Kira and Zeph had never considered it that way. In the collective's eyes, they were broken. In the slaver's eyes, they were commodities. But in David's eyes, they were simply people with infinite potential. When they finally reached Terra Station, the massive human trading hub orbiting Earth, David presented them with identification chips, currency accounts, and a choice. You're free, he said simply. You can stay here, find work, build lives. Or you can come with me. I'm heading to the frontier territories. It's dangerous work, but it's honest. The choice is yours. Kira exchanged a glance with Zeph. For the first time in their lives, they truly had a choice. The weight of it was simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating. We'll come with you, Kira said, speaking for both of them. If you'll have us. David's smile could have lit the entire station. Partners, then. Equal shares, equal say. As they prepared the Wanderer's hope for departure, Kira reflected on their journey. A drunk alien had sold them for a single drink, valuing them less than a momentary pleasure. But a human had given them something infinitely more valuable than hope that he'd given them themselves. And in doing so, he'd shown them what humanity truly meant, not as a species, but as a philosophy. It wasn't about being human. It was about recognizing the humanity in others, regardless of their origin. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying them toward an uncertain but chosen future, Kira finally understood what made humans so terrifying to the galaxy's established order. They believed everyone deserved to be free, and they were willing to fight to prove it.